Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Vijiha.
Walaikum Assalam. Okay, you may start, please.
Okay, so the abstract I had to present on was on Us Too movement. So, Us Too movement, first I would like to talk about what this movement is. So, after the Me Too movement, which almost all of us know what Me Too movement was, that it was about the women who experienced violence of some sort from their partner or from anyone at home or outside. They talked about it and they, brought the matter forward, and it was like breaking the silence. So the Me Too movement inspired other groups to, talk about what they were going through in the case of domestic violence. So, quoting from the research, it says that from the abstract, it says that the research shows same sex couples are as likely to commit abuse on their partners as heterosexual ones. So, it's not like, first of all, the thing is that it's not that only the violence can be practiced on someone because of the gender roles. So firstly, it shatters that glass, that no, there are cases, but those cases in fact are very underreported, because these people are, in one way or another silenced by society for other matters, because of their, sexual preferences and their gender, because it does not exactly go again along with the society. So for a long, long time, firstly, these cases were never reported. Violence in the same sex couples is not because of the gender inequality, and it plays a lot of other roles, like psychological and physical and non-consenting sexual forms of violence in intimate same-sex relationships. So while searching about the matter, there is a report in BBC, which is about 20 years ago. There was the boy just now came forward that 20 years ago his boyfriend imprisoned him in his own apartment, and he said that I could still not identify it as domestic violence, because domestic violence and its idea was only related to those who were experiencing heterosexual relationships, and mostly in case of women. He said that I did not relate to it and talk about it, because I could not even say that it was some sort of a domestic violence when he was being beaten up and when he was being locked up in his own apartment. So this uh, uh, study is in the BBC. It was reported in 2014. And when we read it, then it's like in 2014, he's talking about 20 years back. So, yeah. Uh, and the title of this article is Violence More Common in Same-Sex Relationships on BBC? Yeah, so talking about this abstract, if you have any questions, I can answer them. I did not know if we can, make a proper presentation on like this. I just thought that I have to explain what this abstract is about. So here is what I have read and analyzed on this.
Is this video here? Um it says, I found a few here, but I did not find the one that says BBC.
Not, no, ma'am, it wasn't a video. It's an article. I can share the link in the WhatsApp group, or I
All
have
right.
it in front of me right now. Should I share
All
it?
right. I think you can try sharing it, and we can try opening it here as well.
Oh,
But this I can see a number of videos on YouTube. It says The Day Ahead looks at LGBTQ domestic violence, and a couple of others. right?
Ma'am, maybe
So,
because I have not studied this on YouTube or watched it. I don't know what this video is about, so
but
that's why.
all
If
right,
you want to
that's
say
okay.
anything.
But is there anything else that you want to say from this abstract right in front of you?
I have explained what I had in it, and if there are any things you want to talk about it, I can answer it because
Yeah,
that I'm done with it.
because I said that if you like, you can also read it from here and discuss while reading.
Okay.
I can read it.
This abstract is actually mentioning a few other points as well,
Yeah,
and it is pointing to the problem between
yeah,
between small media and big media. Now it's not clear if social media can be considered small as opposed to big media outlets, because it is saying that when us too movement started, and like the way the Me Too movement had started, it says big media outlets uh, started condemning these people because they were voicing, the victims were voicing their issues. And it says this movement counters the inherent misogyny of big media outlets. So,
Yeah.
right now, what you have mentioned, you are saying that BBC showed a story. I
Yeah.
suppose, or BBC published a story. I suppose that story was in favor of
Yeah.
the person, and it was not
Yes.
against.
Yes.
It wasn't
No.
against voicing the problem, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
here it is saying that when these people started voicing their issues and they started sharing their problems uh, with uh, with others via Me Too, hashtag Me Too sites or Me Too movement when it started. The backlash was inherent misogyny of big media outlets, right?
Hmm.
It's saying right here. So I
Yeah.
think this is an important point, because normally the media, film and media have a tendency of promoting certain norms and values, and silencing is practiced widely across many
Yeah.
cultures, right?
Yeah.
So it is just pointing to a problem that when people started voicing their issues, the objective of voicing was to empower themselves. But when they
Hmm.
started voicing, it is saying that big media outlets reacted. Big media outlets started, they started misogyny, uh, or gave a misogynistic reaction to these Me Too movements. Okay, so it
Yeah.
means that because big media outlets are most of the time supporting uh, views of patriarchy in many cases. So it is just pointing to a problem that big media outlet wasn't ready to hear these voices of Me Too movement. So that's why I said that it's very important to see what the abstract is exactly saying.
Yeah. So when I read it, I did understand that it was how the idea of misogyny came forward along with this problem, and how media reacted to it in a misogynistic way. So that's why I was looking for articles, but instead I found one in the favor of which is BBC and considered as a big media platform, news platform. And so that's why I thought of, presenting one of the stories that not
That, that is
all of them.
that is perfectly fine, and that is good that you find a story which actually is a counter argument for this statement given here. But this
Yeah.
statement would be right as well, because the author who is writing this article would have conducted some kind of research before writing this article. And I think by reading rest of it, we can actually try finding if she mentioned a specific big media outlet here, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, as you can see, that this author is actually telling you about literature that she has reviewed. She
Yeah.
says, she mentions
I
Uzon et al., Fallingstead, and Mize and Shackelford, right? So you can also see that these three researches that she has mentioned here are from 2000
I checked the
to
second
2008.
one, which is Burke Fallings, what this word is. So I did check the second reference, which was violence in gay and lesbian relationships. So it was mostly talking about the same. That the point I discussed, that it was psychological, physical, misconsenting sexual forms of violence in
All right. So
yes.
here she is only saying that literature shows that silence results in perpetuation uh,
Yeah,
violence itself. Because if people don't speak about it, the violence or violence, if people are silent, violence continues, right? So
yeah,
here she is saying that it also reflects on power relations, not only heterosexuals, but also uh, among,
definitely.
yes, homosexuals or
Heterosexual.
same sex partners.
Also, ma'am, there's
So,
one more point, that when the Me Too movement started, the Me Too movement did not reject the idea that how the violence was taking place in the same-sex relationships in lesbians and gays. They did give them the space. Uh, I'm not talking about the enough space that they needed about it, or how, but they did feel the need that no, we do need another movement which talks about how we go through the same thing. They did not fall under the Me Too movement's banner, and they wanted the Us Too movement to be highlighted in a specific way. So, yeah. And how in this article, the writer is talking about that the news, when these things came up, when the news came out, how there was a certain idea of not accepting it in the news media, which is the misogynistic attitude from them.
okay,
So yeah.
sure. Here she has mentioned the name of someone who actually went through same-sex abuse. So the author's name is Arno Roy Mora, and she's writing about Kevin
Kevin
Spacey.
Spacey.
Yes, Kevin Spacey here. And I'm sure. So did you try finding Kevin Spacey? Uh,
Ma'am, I did read about the case, but I needed some
it's okay
time.
because you found a different one. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying that I'm not sure if uh, if we will find something here by writing Kevin Spacey. In fact, we do. It says Kevin Spacey is an actor. And
Yeah.
I wonder if she's talking about the same actor in this case, right?
Um,
So if we go to Wikipedia, we'll probably find some details of what happened
yeah.
to Kevin Spacey, or if it is same Kevin Spacey. And she's
I
saying
thought
that
that one is mentioned in this abstract, so I should find another story on it. So I did not go with the same.
okay, that's okay, that's fine. Okay, and how would we define toxic masculinities that she has mentioned here, and toxic masculinity in the case of same-sex partners?
Um, Obviously, it is not about the gender role, that one is a man and other is a woman, and a man thinks that he got power over the woman. But toxic masculinity, I think by this idea of same-sex violence, domestic violence, I think we understand toxic masculinity even better. That it is not just about how who the other person is. It is about who you become and who who you turn into. Being a man, and the idea of masculinity and toxicity, in your, gender, and how you are practicing it, what society has fed you. And I think it gives a reflection of that it's not just about the woman you are talking about, and saying that they're not, they're vulnerable to it, or how they practice it on them. It is about how they practice it on anyone who's in front of them, the toxic masculinity, the idea of it. So I was taking it that way, and I was taking it how, I think through this it defines it even better, that it
So,
is there.
okay,
It is
so
not just about, yeah.
okay, so does it imply that in even in same-sex relationship, one is stronger or masculine, you know, has masculine traits and the other is weaker, and plays the role of the feminine in the same-sex partners? In in that
Honestly,
case,
I'm not really,
you
sure
don't know.
about that. No, I don't know that if, in this relationship, how one is acting. Because I think that what I have read about it is that they are basically tired of that idea of one acting the, powerful one, and one acting the feminine one, and one acting like a man. And then again, it does take place in relationships, in lesbian relationships. One woman is, trying to hold on, and the other one is being submissive. And this idea in relationships, I don't understand, Abhi. So yeah, I
Okay.
don't think I can comment on
I only typed masculinity in and femininity in same-sex relationships. So this is what I found here, right? So had I written masculinity and femininity in same-sex relationships dot PDF, I will find this kind of research articles, right? So it is saying uh, masculinity, femininity is positively linked to relationship quality. So even in gay couples, it says that you will find one is more masculine and
it.
one is more feminine.
Yeah.
So this is a research article, but earlier it was showing something on Wikipedia sort of thing. So what I mean that if you click any of these, if you click the Wikipedia one or if you click a proper article here, in both cases you will probably find this information. I haven't opened any of these articles, but I think when you start reading an article on this kind of topic, you would most likely learn that even in gay lesbian relationships, there are power relations, and one partner is more masculine and more
Yeah.
one partner is feminish.
Yes.
Okay. Anything from the last paragraph here? Because last paragraph is talking about representations of intimate partner violence in gay lesbian couples in media. So it is just talking about media representations, and I believe this is what we had found here. Okay.
Yeah.
So all these YouTube videos are probably representing, and the article that you have mentioned was
Yeah.
also representing same-sex uh, violence, right? Or
Yes.
okay. Here she is just saying what this article does. It says this paper unpacks the interactions that gender and
Gender
sexuality
and
have.
sexuality have with
Okay?
violence. Yeah.
Uh, and it also comments on ideological discourses. So the minute you refer to ideological discourses, we are probably referring to what big media outlets might be showing, because big media outlet would have this tendency of representing patriarchy stronger than perhaps
Yeah.
humanity in many cases. There is a very famous dialogue from some of Pakistani films, and you may have heard it in somewhere else also. that in old days a father in a Pakistani film would tell his daughter at the time of his marriage कि अब उस घर से तुम्हारा जनाजा ही निकले,
Yeah.
right? So which probably shows that women were trained in a certain fashion. They were trained to be silent. They were
Mm.
trained to be passive. They were trained not to tell anybody about the problems they were facing at their in laws or with their husband or wherever. So, in other words, this kind of training, कि अब उस घर से जनाजा ही निकले, was it shows that women were trained to be silent and women were trained not to express. They were going through uh, this kind of misogyny or violence of, or they were experiencing unequal power relations, right?
Ma'am, I would like to talk about a paper I wrote that it was on how women were portrayed by the dramas now that go on, the serials, TV serials in Pakistan. So
Okay,
when I was
which channel would that be? Hum TV or
Hum TV,
ARI?
Hum TV, I did under Hum TV.
Okay.
And the particular case study that I picked was of Zindagi Gulzar Hai. Zindagi Gulzar Hai is the drama जो mostly लड़कियों को लगता है कि ये वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट के बारे में है, या ये एक ऐसा ड्रामा है जो औरतों को स्ट्रॉन्ग दिखाता है और ये ये नॉर्मल ड्रामों जैसा नहीं है. बट आई चोज दैट ड्रामा पर्टिकुलरली टू पिन पॉइंट थिंग्स कि उसमें क्या हो रहा था, and how the makers say each time they make anything like that and they turn it into the same thing, they say that it is because this is what happens in the society. So the fact is that over the course of years the media has been turning into a very powerful platform. It gives voice and takes away the voice from to many issues, to many problems in the society. Now the problem of women, which has been being dragged over and over again, and now giving the idea that it cannot be silenced, the patriarchy, the problems rise due to the issues in it. They still keep it overshadowing and giving the idea that okay, even today, I did this paper like 2 years ago, and even today when I see these dramas, they're the same. They're the same. The things that going on are same. In Zindagi Gulzar Hai, there was this woman who's very strong and career oriented, and she is very ambitious, and how her mother keeps on telling her that being ambitious is okay, but you have to be submissive to your husband in a way that he's happy. She needs to keep her mother-in-law happy and her sister-in-law happy, and she keeps on asking her over and over again that have you called your mother-in-law? You should call her every day so she thinks that you're a nice girl. And how you need to act in front of your husband, how you need to be silent on many things. And then the idea was that okay, this is a strong girl and she faces the world. But at the end of the day she marries the man, and when the point that breaks her is that she gets pregnant and she knows that she is going to have baby girls. So she gives up on everything because she thinks that no, I have to give birth to girls, and girls cannot survive without a father and a man who protects them. So I need to go back to my husband who's being abusive to me even. So this was the idea even behind a story that was being presented as about a strong woman and a woman empowerment, and the idea that okay, हमारी जो हम मगरबी हम मशरकी हैं, हाँ, हमारी मशरकी औरतें जो हैं वो कितनी स्ट्रांग हो सकती हैं और किस तरह वो अपना ख्याल रख सकती हैं. बट वो वाली पूरी चीज भी उस ड्रामे में एंड पे जो है वो शैटर कर दी थी कि नहीं, एंड पे यू हैव टू गिव अप, यू हैव टू पुट योर हैंड्स अप, एंड you have to surrender because it's a man's world and you cannot be in it and do all you want to do. So in this media we have it, it's quite regularly being aired on screen in every other drama serial. So today I don't know which one is, we can call different from the others, कि इसमें ये स्टोरी नहीं है, उसमें कोई ना कोई चीज उसी एक फिगर के अराउंड घूम रही है. तो
Okay.
yeah.
I think Noor perhaps wants to comment or want to add something. Ji Noor?
Um, okay, so talking about like if we're talking about that drama, Zindagi Gulzar hai, there were some issues with that drama, but the male character, he was not abusive towards Kashyap. Um,
He was
it's
verbally
just
abusive, not physically. He was verbally abusive. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to clarify the point. And he got abusive because of the reason that he found out that his own friend sent a marriage proposal to her before. And why didn't she tell him before marriage that, before you, your friend was here? So, yeah, he was
um,
verbally quite abusive to her.
Ji.
do you remember any word like any क्या कहते हैं dialogues वगैरह, because I watched it recently again, and I think there was a very like काफी heated arguments थी, लेकिन हाँ there are many issues with that drama, I agree with that, लेकिन I didn't notice any verbal क्या कहते हैं abuse
So
and
I'll tell you. So when he talks to his sister, have you noticed the parts when he is with his friends and doing all the things and going out on concerts till late night? And then on the other hand, when he sees his sister going out with her fiance, he gets mad. And then he also asks her over and over again, "Why are you wearing such clothes?" And then then he gets engaged with one of his friends earlier, not married but engaged. And then the instant he gets engaged with her in a relationship, he starts dictating her. And then talking about the verbal abuse, he gets very angry on Kashyap on a lot of things. And the heated arguments, it's mostly, controlled by him, how he talks to her, how he controls it, and how things go about that. Heated in verbal abuse, it's not just about, you know abusing someone with what would swear words. It's not just about that. Verbal abuse on a woman or on a man or on any, in same sex domestic violence, when we see the cases now, when I have, it's not just about, one swear word we say to another person. It's about what we are giving it to the another person, psychological effect, how we shout on them in a manner that, it breaks them, how we can perpetuate violence on someone through words. So when you see the relationship of Kashyap and Zaroon, and if you analyze it, reading about it and then writing about it, you will, find out how things went in that relationship. Even when the girl is shown to be a very strong, a very, strong headed woman, and she knows what she wants and she knows how to go about things, but then she is again broken by the same man who,
Okay.
she
All
marries
right.
at the end of the day.
Amna, I think Myra wants to say something. So let's
Sure.
Ah,
hear Myra.
thank you.
Myra?
I just want to basically, yes, I agree with Amna and Noor, but the concept which I also noticed when I saw it, this was a really long time ago, it was abuse in the sense that you are policing a woman's spirit, her intellect, but the abuse is not loud enough to be noticed by others. So it was constant microaggressions towards Kashyap within a marriage, is what I realized while watching the drama.
There was definitely aggression, that I agree with.
All right. Okay. Here in the,
Ma'am,
to,
Komal has some messages, I think. I
G, you're saying she's posting messages?
I need to check it. Okay, she has messaged in the chat box. I thought she's saying something. So I
Okay.
don't know. I haven't opened it.
You can read it loud. What did she message?
Uh, I need to open the chat box. 1 second, ma'am. Uh, oh, okay. Thank you, Komal. She agrees with me.
Okay.
Thank
All right, good. Here, in the end, you can see that it is talking about patriotism. It says homophobia and patriotism are used to justify racism, right? And in the end, homo nationalism. So I was just wondering if it links to what we discussed earlier. In one of the earlier classes, we did discuss that that parts of media content or parts of film are censored in fear of law and order uh, disorder situations, right? So basically, I was wondering, if you can recall, I had mentioned that in case of Hindu-Muslim marriage in a film, there can be law and order situations in the country, and these would be real because Muslims or Hindus would be perhaps uh, protesting why uh, it was a woman, a Muslim woman, who married a Hindu man, for instance, because patriarchy becomes very important. So I was just wondering, this comment on patriotism and homo nationalism is linked to uh, silencing of the gender homosexuals in this case, like weaker person should remain silent because in some way it reflects on culture, and when it reflects on culture, it also reflects on law and order situations and patriotism and homo nationalism in some way. So I thought this is actually a bit like complicated because uh, Roig Mora, Roig Mora is actually referring to uh, this idea of patriotism and homo nationalism, which is somehow merged with discourses of uh, misogyny on bigger media outlets. Bigger media outlets would have the tendency of promoting the norms, and I think that is where these two words come in, patriotism and homo nationalism, because then people would start saying, oh, it is our culture, and our culture is this way, women have to stay silent. Or
you.
even in power relationships where one is playing as the feminine within the same sex partners or masculine partner. I think that this also reflects on that part because
Ma'am, this
some
also, just now, it also reminds me of something that Zindagi Tamasha, the film that is made by Samat Kusar, and it also portrays a person who is not straight, and I haven't watched the film, so I don't know the entire thing, that but we do get an idea how the story is. And when I when we see the trailer, and the problem is, and the film was cleared by the censor board, and it wasn't a problem. But what the problem became was not the homo nationalism, what we say. It was about the religion. The problem was not made by the idea that, okay, it is because here in Pakistan, it's not, it's a big problem, homosexuality, or LGBTQ rights. And when we talk about it, how people react to them, how when these people are out on the streets, how people see them, and everything. But in the film, it was not a problem. The problem was made the religion, the idea that, okay, how the clerics are mad on certain things. So yeah, with the idea of homo nationalism, I had this example in my own country. But it's also quite confusing. So
right,
yeah,
all right,
because
perfect,
yesterday I saw news that was being made a huge problem out of, that it was a woman, a girl who had to, she's being sanctioned, and case is being prepared against her because she married a girl.
all right,
It was a gay couple. So yeah, it was a breaking news that a girl is marrying a girl, and she was also getting involved into she was going to get her sex changed. So I don't know, it was like a huge thing. It was on every other channel last night. So yeah.
Okay, so that actually reflects on uh, bigger media outlet reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. Very good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
All
ma'am.
right. It was, I believe it was good discussion, and I am happy that everybody had something to say. Let's go to the next one. I think that Amna Iqbal is not here, and I'm
मैम
seeing
मैं
Hassan. Hassan, is that Hassan?
नो मैम जहाँ
Acha, Jahangir. Jahangir, you want to discuss yours now?
यस मैम लेकिन ना मैंने ना ये कर लिया है ये वाला जो ना एब्स्ट्रैक्ट द आर्गुमेंट कैन बी मेड टॉक्सिक मस्कुलिनिटी वाला ये भी
Okay. So that would be somewhere towards the end of this file.
ये
Yeah, I was trying to
ये
go,
जो पैराग्राफ है
I was trying कि हम we move in order तो थोड़ा सा आसान हो जाएगा, but I can certainly go to yours. Can you try telling me which page it might
टॉक्सिक
be?
मस्कुलिनिटी फेमिनिज्म रिन्यूड ये पेज नंबर तो मैम नहीं है इसका आईडी
नहीं
है
नहीं,
ये
पेज I can understand पेज number नहीं है.
ये
Page
है
14. Page 14.
14
Okay, let me try. Hassan, I hope you have also prepared because I was coming to you right now. But let's go to Jahangir's first. जहांगीर मुझे जरा अगर आप मुझे एब्स्ट्रैक्ट के ऊपर आईडी लिखी हुई है जस्ट लाइक दिस वन इट सेज एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आईडी 22962 सो व्हाट इज द एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आईडी
23746
23746 this is 745 so it should be the next one okay so is this the one toxic masculinity misogyny feminism
yes ma'am renewed
okay please do one thing while discussing this abstract do remember that Maria Maron is the author and mention Maria Maron's name in while discussing this abstract.
oh
All right, so let's discuss it. Ji Jahangir.
जी मैम ये आर्गुमेंट ये जो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट है ना इस पे उन्होंने एक ये चीज जो मेन डिस्कस की है वो ये है कि जो पहली फेमिनिज्म की वेव थी ना वो मी टू मूवमेंट के बाद रिन्यू हो
ओके
तो मैम इसमें भी वही चीजें उन्होंने डिस्कस की हुई है टॉक्सिक मस्कुलिनिटी और मिसोजिनी ने जो मतलब इन चीजों को मद्देनजर रखते हुए जो ये इसमें ये रिन्यू हुई है इसके अंदर मतलब मैन यही बताया गया कि वुमेन्स को कैसे इंफीरियर दिखाया जाता है और इन पे जो मतलब वो इनकी आवाज नहीं ये रेज करने दी जाती और इस तरह के जो हैं सारे करैक्टरिस्टिक्स मिलके ये सारा जो मसला है बनता है इसके अंदर उन्होंने मैम एक इंसेल मूवमेंट के बारे में डिस्कस किया हुआ है इसके अंदर उन्होंने बताया कि मतलब ये मैम इनवॉलेंट्री सेलिब्रेट्स लिखा हुआ इसका नहीं मैम मुझे समझ आया मैंने वैसे इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा पढ़ा था यही चीज लिखी हुई है कि जो जिन्हें मतलब अपने रोमांटिक ये होते स्ट्रेट है लेकिन इन्हें अपने रोमांटिक और वो मतलब उस तरह से जो पार्टनर्स नहीं मिलते जो उन्हें
okay you can continue discussing
और मैम इसमें इसमें वायलेंस का भी जिक्र किया गया है और इसके बाद मैम इसमें जो मेन उन्होंने सारा बताया ना वो यही है कि
ये आप जहांगीर जो आपने अभी कहा था यू कैन सी दैट incel इज एन एब्रिविएशन ऑफ इनवॉलंटरी सेलिब्रेट्स वो जो आप incel जिसकी बात कर रहे थे सो इनवॉलंटरी सेलिब्रेट इज कंप्लीट वर्ड और इनवॉलंटरी का इन और सेलिब्रेट का सेल लेके दे हैव क्रिएटेड दिस वर्ड इनवॉलंटरी सेलिब्रेट ओके
ठीक है unable to find a romantic or sexual partner despite desiring one, engaging in misogyny, racism, a sense of entitlement to sex, and endorse violence. और मैम इसके बाद फिर उन्होंने मी टू मूवमेंट का वही जिक्र, द मी टू मूवमेंट इज अ फीमेल रिस्पॉन्स टू सेक्सुअल असॉल्ट एंड सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट। ये सबको पता है कि मी टू मूवमेंट है, ये चली थी, ये जो मतलब लोगों ने फेस की है ये सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट फेस की, उसके अगेंस्ट जब उन्होंने वॉइस रेज की थी तो वो सारी एक जो मूवमेंट थी वो मी टू मूवमेंट थी। तो इसी ने बाद में फेमिनिज्म ने भी मतलब यही मोड़ ले लिया, वो सारा मी टू मूवमेंट और फेमिनिज्म मिक्स अप हो गई। और
All right. Is this article saying that incel is the opposite of Me Too?
मैम इंसेल नो मैम, मुझे इसके बारे में ना आइडिया नहीं हुआ।
नहीं, मैं इस वजह से पूछ रही हूँ कि because it says that incel movement aligns with toxic masculinity, right? So it means
ये मतलब
जी, it implies ना, it implies कि if it is aligning with toxic masculinity, जिसको वो define कर रही है as white heterosexual, right?
यस मैम।
और जिसको इस वजह से she saying incel aligns with toxic masculinity, तो it sounds like incel would do something which would be opposite of Me Too,
यस मैम।
right? तो
मतलब वो
मैं
तो अपनी आवाज रेस कर रहे थे और इंसेल में वही चीज हो रही थी जिसके खिलाफ थे वो लोग।
All right. So incel, it sounds like incel was opposite to Me Too movement. Okay. Okay, good.
और मैंने जो मतलब दो तीन चीजें मेरे जहन में आई थी, मतलब जिसमें वो आवाज मतलब वुमेन्स को अपनी आवाज नहीं रेज करने दी जाती या सप्रेस किया जाता सोसाइटी में, तो वो बोल मूवी में था तो ट्रांसजेंडर का इशू, लेकिन उसमें भी उन्होंने मतलब जो वो देखा जैसे कि वो उनकी माँ और उनकी वो जो लड़का जो ट्रांसजेंडर मेल होता है उसकी जो बहनें होती हैं, उन्हें किस तरह से उसके वालिद ने सप्रेस किया होता है, उन्हें ना मतलब ना घर से बाहर जाने देना, ना कोई काम, ना कोई मतलब किसी किस्म की उन्हें इंडिपेंडेंस नहीं, ना पढ़ाई की। तो एक ये एग्जांपल थी मेरे जहन में। इसके
कौन
बाद
से पाकिस्तान की बात कर रहे हैं, किसी और कंट्री की बात कर रहे हैं?
पाकिस्तान में।
Okay, so it's very important कि आप पाकिस्तान mention करें because this abstract is from US, right? तो US का abstract है and you are looking at the abstract from your position. So it's very important कि आप पाकिस्तान mention करें because then we can see if we have situations that are similar to situations in the US or our situations are different. तो जो आपने example दी that is perfectly fine. सिर्फ अगर आप आर्टिकल का ओरिजिन आपको याद रहेगा तो आप उसको अपनी पोजीशन से कमेंट करना आसान हो जाएगा। ऑल राइट जी, आगे। सो इट सेज क्या कह रहा है कि जी मी टू वाज वुमेन्स रिस्पांस टू सेक्सुअल असॉल्ट एंड सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट और often perpetrated by men in position of power. तो मेरा ख्याल है कि ये काफी छोटा सा एब्स्ट्रैक्ट है।
यस मैम, ये छोटा ही है।
ओके, how is it saying कि it elicited transparency about sexual misconduct? So do you feel कि voicing would make it transparent?
मैम किस तरह?
वो ये कह रही है ना कि मी टू मूवमेंट जो है इट एलिसिटेड ट्रांसपेरेंसी, क्योंकि अगर आप साइलेंट थे तो चीजें छुपी हुई थी और आप साइलेंट नहीं रहे और सेक्सुअल मिसकंडक्ट को आपने मी टू में डिस्कस करना शुरू कर दिया तो चीजें ट्रांसपेरेंट हो जाएंगी ना।
बिल्कुल मैम, चीजें ट्रांसपेरेंट हो जाएंगी।
हाँ, तो वो कह रही है कि जी ट्रांसपेरेंसी इंक्रीज हो रही है।
बिल्कुल। और मैम इसमें मैंने ना एक और जो मतलब एग्जांपल थी वो इंडिया से है, वो ना है तो इसमें कास्ट नहीं होती जो मतलब ऊंच नीच में, उसमें भी जो उन्होंने विक्टिमाइज किया हुआ ना वो मतलब लड़कियां होती हैं, यंग आर्टिकल 15 के नाम से आयुष्मान खुराना की मूवी, उसमें भी जो विक्टिमाइजेशन उन्होंने की ना वो भी गर्ल्स की है, तो उनके साथ भी इसी तरह होता है। वो खैर है तो इससे ऊंच नीच जात से रिलेटेड, लेकिन उसमें भी उन्होंने विक्टिमाइज जो किया ना वो है लड़कियों को किया इसमें भी।
ओके तो इनसेल का वो जो आप कह रहे थे कि वहाँ पे आपने मेंशन किया कि यू नो इट सेज ऑनलाइन सब कल्चर, दिस इज व्हाट मारिया मैरन वाज आल्सो सेइंग, ऑनलाइन सब कल्चर। तो इट मीन्स के जो आपका ऑनलाइन मीडिया है इज क्रिएटेड कल्चर्स एंड आल्सो सब कल्चर्स। तो यहाँ पे वो सिर्फ ये कह रही है, यू नो इट वाज द सेम थिंग दैट शी हैज रिटन हियर। यहाँ पे
तो
उसने कहा
ये जो
ऑनलाइन
वाली
सब कल्चर भी मेंशन किया, और उसने कहा कि दीज आर द पीपल हु आर अनएबल टू फाइंड रोमांटिक सेक्सुअल पार्टनर, जो आपने यहाँ पे भी कहा था, people
यस
who were
मैम,
not finding romantic sexual partners, उनके एंड से ये incel movement start हुई है, right?
यस
So I think whatever this point is referring to probably also relates to what we discussed in the last class, because I think कि हमने, if you can see कि नहीं हमने इस कोर्स में नहीं डिस्कस किया, बिकॉज देयर इज एन, यस यही डिस्कस किया था हमने इन द लास्ट क्लास। वी डिस्कस्ड मामीज, मेट्रियार्क्स एंड अदर कंट्रोलिंग इमेजेस, and in this particular article some black men were saying okay, it's hard to find you know like romantic partners among black women because they thought black women were undesirable, right? So I
Right.
think this point is actually reflecting on that part as well, you know, where people find their romantic, they are unable to find romantic partners or sexual partners.
मैम ये
So it just says when they behave, when they can't find, they engage in misogyny, which means they are saying black women are not desirable if they are rejecting women of their own color. Perhaps
ma'am.
that is also misogyny in certain ways. Okay, very nice. Thank you. Thank you. खत्म हो गया ये? I think ये खत्म हो गया.
यस मैम, छोटा सा ही।
Okay. जी, who would like to go next? Jahangir.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम मैम।
जी हसन, would you like to do it?
जी मैम, मैं ये रिक्वेस्ट करने लगा था if I can do it right now.
Okay, so yours is number 4, I suppose.
Yes ma'am.
Can you tell me the abstract number? Is it this one 20658 or next one?
मैम मैं आपको आईडी बता देता हूँ, it is 20757.
20757. Okay, so here it is. Is this the one?
Yes ma'am.
Okay, catcalling, misogyny and victim blaming.
Yes ma'am.
Ji.
Ma'am, basically the abstract is about sexual harassment and a law that was passed in 2015 in Portugal. It mainly talks about how sexual harassment is a very common issue, not just in the eastern countries but also in the west. Or ma'am, it mainly talks about a law that was passed in 2015, or it basically banned verbal harassment for women on the streets of Portugal. It continues on speaking कि किस तरह digital and social media analysis करके they found out data कि कितना ज़्यादा वहाँ की औरतों में डर है हर रोज़ बाहर जाने पे और sexual harassment face करने पे उनको डर लगता है, they fear it, वो उसके बारे में सोच रही होती हैं even in its absence, they plan for it। और ये सारा अभी इसी के अंदर एब्स्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर एक रेफरेंस दिया हुआ है फेयर चाइल्ड एंड वुडमेन 2008 का। तो अगर हम इसको खोलें और इस पे सर्च करें तो मैम ये एग्जैक्टली यही बात कर रहा है कि औरतों में ये इस कदर कॉमन हो चुका है कि औरतों को घर बैठे हुए भी वो इसके बारे में भी सोच रही होती हैं कि यार अगर बाहर गई तो किस तरह इस चीज़ को फेस करना पड़ सकता है। इसी तरह इसी के अंदर मैम एब्स्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर एक और रेफरेंस दिया हुआ है Johnson and Bennett 2015 का, which was a survey-based article in passed in 2015 in Australia, जिसकी रिसर्च ये थी कि 100% उन्होंने सर्वे किया था और रिजल्ट ये आया था कि 100% वुमेन जो है वो फियर करती हैं सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट को और उसके अलग अलग इंटेंसिटी लेवल्स पे वो सोचते हैं कि यार क्या हो सकता था, क्या नहीं हो सकता था, और वो फेयर करती हैं उसके बारे में, और उनकी सोशल लाइफ जो है वो इफेक्ट हो रही है उसकी वजह से। मैं मेनली ये जो है औरतों के हवाले से लेके तो सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट, कैट कॉलिंग और इन सारी चीज़ों के ऊपर बात कर रहे हैं कि कैसे फेमिनिस्ट्स ने एक पूरी मूवमेंट स्टार्ट की थी यूजिंग डिजिटल ऑनलाइन मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म्स, और फिर 2015 पे उनकी मेहनत जो थी वो रंग ले आई जब पोर्टुगीज गवर्नमेंट ने ये लॉ पास किया, जिसके बाद से harassment is now considered illegal, और it is considered as a crime, और उसके हवाले से सजाएं भी हैं। लेकिन मैम साथ ही साथ इसमें ये भी कहा गया है कि nevertheless it is part of everyday sexism, कि इस कदर कॉमन हो गया कि ये हर जगह फैला हुआ है।
हर जगह से you mean all over the world और पोर्टुगल?
वर्ल्ड में, जिस तरह मैंने आपको अपने जॉनसन एंड बेनेट का बताया कि उनकी ऑस्ट्रेलिया की रिसर्च बता रही है कि वहाँ पे 100% वुमेन के अंदर फेयर है।
थोड़ा सा स्पीकर के पास हो जाए जी।
और मैम जिस तरह मैंने अभी आपको इसी में एब्स्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर से रेफरेंस दिया जॉनसन एंड बेनेट की 2015 की एक सर्वे के बारे में, कि जिस तरह ऑस्ट्रेलिया में भी 100% वुमेन के अंदर फेयर है सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट का, और पोर्चुगीज में भी था, जिसकी वजह से इनको ये लॉ पास करना पड़ा। तो ये कहते हैं कि सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट और कैट कॉलिंग और ये सारा जो स्ट्रीट सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट है, इट इज़ ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, और हर जगह इसके इफेक्ट्स हैं, अलग अलग लेवल पे, अलग अलग इंटेंसिटी में हैं, लेकिन इसके इफेक्ट्स पूरी दुनिया में हैं। उसके अलावा मेनली यही है कि ये लॉ जो पास हुआ था इसके अंदर डिजिटल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म जो थे उनको भी यूज़ किया गया था, उनसे इन्होंने अपनी कैंपेन जो थी वो रन की थी, और उसके अलावा इन्होंने फैक्ट्स एंड फिगर्स जो थे वो भी वहाँ से उठाए थे फेसबुक से, फॉर एग्जांपल, के लोग सही तरीके से इस चीज़ को समझते नहीं है, इस इशू को समझ ही नहीं पा रहे, जिसकी वजह से वो इसको ज़्यादा सीरियस एक सोशल इशू जो है वो कंसिडर नहीं करते। मैम मोर और लेस यही इसमें बात हो रही है कि किस तरह फेमिनिस्ट्स ने अपनी मूवमेंट स्टार्ट की थी, और इसके ऊपर पूरा उन्होंने ऑनलाइन जाके इस पर रिसर्च की थी, अपनी कैंपेन चलाई थी, और सक्सेसफुली इन 2015 उन्होंने फिर अपना ये लॉ जो है वो अपनी गवर्नमेंट से पास करवाया।
ओके जी, वेरी नाइस। एनी अदर थिंग, बिकॉज शी इज सेइंग कि आई थिंक अभी जहांगीर ने भी यही कहा था कि मी टू एक्चुअली रिवाइव्ड फेमिनिस्ट मूवमेंट्स और फेमिनिज्म, तो यहाँ पे भी शी इज रिफरिंग टू फेमिनिस्ट क्रिटिकल डिस्कोर्स एनालिसिस, which means कि वो जो पहले बात हो रही थी कि फेमिनिज्म मी टू की वजह से all of a sudden it revived, that also is endorsed here. जी, anything else, any other important point? I think you finish yours and then we hear something from तहरीम, वो कुछ कहना चाह रही है बड़ी देर से।
मैं more or less मैंने जो सारी बातें थी वो समझी जो थी वो एक्सप्लेन कर तो दिया इसमें से।
ओके, ऑल राइट जी। तहरीम, यू वांट टू से समथिंग? यहाँ पे एक ये लास्ट पॉइंट जो था, ये पोलिटिसाइजेशन ऑफ स्ट्रीट सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट, इस पे वुड यू लाइक टू से समथिंग कि पोलिटिसाइजेशन ऑफ सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट का क्या मतलब है? पोलिटिसाइजेशन ऑफ कैट कॉलिंग, इन अदर वर्ड्स।
मैम इसका मैंने थोड़ी सी रिसर्च की थी, तो आई डोंट नो इफ आई एम राइट और रॉन्ग, आई होप सही कह रहा हूँ। जो मैंने जो रिसर्च की थी और जो मुझे समझ आया था वो ये था कि जब ये लॉ पास हो रहा था तो वो जो गवर्नमेंट थी और जो गवर्नमेंट बॉडीज थी उन्होंने भी इस चीज़ को काफ़ी अपने फायदे के लिए यूज़ किया था कि हम लोग अगर इसके बारे में काम करेंगे तो हमें जो फीमेल जेंडर है उसकी तरफ से काफ़ी एक रिस्पेक्ट मिलेगी। तो उन्होंने एक अपना पॉलिटिकल पॉइंट समझ लें कि अपने लिए पॉइंट्स गेन करने के लिए भी इस कैंपेन को यूज़ किया था कि हमारे लिए ज़रूरी है कि हमें औरतों की तरफ से सपोर्ट मिल जाएगी इसी चक्कर में।
राइट, ओके, ऑल राइट। सो इट जस्ट मीन्स कि जो पोलिटिसाइजेशन है, politicization actually increased recognition of women's socially structural oppression. ऐसे ही है?
जी मैम
It
कहा जा
says recognition of socially structural oppression. तो अगर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी ने इसको ओन कर लिया तो बेसिकली इट इज सपोर्टिंग ऑल दोस थिंग्स जो आपने कहा कि उनका पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा और एक उनकी रिकॉग्निशन इंक्रीज हो गई. नाइस जी, वेरी नाइस जी. जी तरीम, यू वांटेड टू से समथिंग और ऐड समथिंग?
Ji ma'am, actually I was told that we were supposed to go with our attendance number. So I think Hassan ने अपनी पहली वाली file open नहीं किया because इसमें इसका 4th आया था, but actually this is the 18th abstract. So is it okay if I give the presentation on the same abstract?
I think it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine, but then what we'll do, we'll discuss it now, right? ताकि we जी. So I think he has completed his part. So if you want to continue discussing the same article, it would be fine.
Okay. So, ma'am, the article was basically about the gender-based street harassment and catcalling, which obviously includes the, the undesirable remarks and activities that's perceived to a specific gender. In this, obviously, they're talking about women and how they face gender-based street harassment, and like generally, street harassment doesn't have to include women only. Like there are homophobic and transphobic people as well. Especially in Portugal, I read it over where like in this abstract, obviously they're talking about women, but street harassment is very common in Portugal and it happens way more than usual. So this is how the catcalling is counted as like how it's an everyday sexism, and that the fact that women come forward with their stories but they're not taken seriously. And catcalling and victim framing, this is so mundane now कि मतलब internet पे now everyone, whoever comes forward with their stories or with their like their experiences, they are always disregarded. Their experiences are disregarded, and that is what, like, why they went online and why they wanted to research online, was because they were blamed from unwanted like attention, and they think that they were just seeking attention. So
right. So you are actually referring to framing and counter framing, right? It is mentioned, right?
Yes ma'am.
Okay.
So since this abstract is from this another university in Portugal, and I'm pretty sure there are higher chances of the traffic wardens being women there somehow, because with their jobs they don't really differentiate between women and men most of the time. But if you think having female wardens in Pakistan, like whatever has been happening on the street, they have never I don't know if maybe I'm wrong, but I've never seen women being in this position and taking this job, because literally no one would take this gender seriously if they ever take this job. So what I was thinking, in Portugal, I did some research. There was a phase where women were there as traffic wardens, and somehow it got discontinued. But when they were traffic wardens, women felt really safe on the streets, even at night, because they knew that there's another woman with authority standing there looking out for us. So around that university, that perimeter of that university, there were girls started feeling safe because there was a women warden there. But somehow it got discontinued, and yeah, so this was apart from where the catcalling and the street harassment was. Me Too movement के बारे में भी बात करेंगे कि since it started on the internet, and people would say it went haywire because there were so many stories, and people started thinking that maybe girls just want attention and they're just coming forward with a story because they don't want the movement to be ended or something. but they would ask for proofs, and especially when it comes to street harassment, there are mostly no proofs. So even if they're asked for proofs, usually sexual harassment through like in real life or maybe on phones or text, there proofs there, but people still somehow have the they have the audacity to ask for proofs for street sexual harassment, which is so common, especially in Pakistan. I myself, I'm pretty sure all the girls in this class would actually agree with me that there have been times where you go out and twice or thrice at least you get that feeling that you're being harassed or you're being looked and you're being followed around. I can't drive anymore because I get followed or something like that. So I think that they just wanted to take this whole issue online and discuss it the way how people have been using social media, and they just wanted things to get out there. But it got really ugly, especially on Twitter. um, Women came forward with their stories, but again they were shamed and ridiculed. Also, I'm going to talk about there's a mention of the Convention of Istanbul, and it was basically based on preventing violence against women and domestic violence as well. So there was an understanding that gender-based violence actually exists against women because they are women, because it's because of their gender. So it was an obligation for the state to fully address its forms, to take measures to prevent violence against women. And hence why in Portugal it said that it was a crime to this sexual harassment and catcalling, and this was turned into it was illegal now. So the research basically was telling us about how things were for people, things for women in Portugal are now, and their struggles and their backlash. They it finally ended how they uh it turned into an illegal thing, and now things are better. In fact, I was reading someone's personal experience about what really happened after this whole thing happened. I think this happened in 2014, 2015. And now when you see how people in that university in Portugal, especially around, are feeling, there are girls feeling much safer, and their environment and the teachers and everyone is very supportive of this bill that came out. So now yeah, that's about it. That's about the abstract that I wanted to say.
Okay, so basically that she says through this, this whole attempt was legitimized. It says
Yes.
legitimize the seriousness of this offense, and naturally legalization actually comes from there. So it became a legitimate event
Yes.
in its own. Right. So legal
Yes.
developments are around legitimacy of uh, violence, gender-based violence that you said belongs to
Yes.
or was part of Istanbul Convention.
Yes, ma'am.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions? Any comment?
Thank you, ma'am.
Any comments? Anyone? Who wants to go next? Let's see who is here. So Kanza and Komal.
Yes, ma'am.
So Kanza, do you want to go next?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Can you tell me the article number?
Ma'am, the ID number is 200 and no wait 22233. It's on page 7. It's a 6th abstract.
Okay. All right. Please remember to mention the author's name during the discussion. Sarah D. voiced, or
Miss,
D.
I also have the same article.
Were you not all picking up an article from file 1?
No, because mine is the 19th roll number, so I had to pick it from the second abstract.
Okay, let's try discussing it. I think the earlier two, despite being same, were quite different in terms of presentation. So we can discuss it together. Both of you can discuss it together, or you can discuss it one by one. Okay, so
I don't mind doing it together.
okay, good. Kanza, is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, all right. Okay, you can start. Um, so it is Kanza and
Zarish.
Zarish. Okay, good. Okay, so it is Sarah Deist. Okay.
Yeah. Should I? Okay, I can start. I'm just going to give an overall summary about the abstract. So, um, basically, this abstract talks about online harassment faced by female journalists and how the online environment has made journalists more, I guess, vulnerable to digital threats, um, which basically are in the form of, in this abstract says, like misogynist comments or verbal abuse, including like sexual harassment, which then leads to censorship, affecting the freedom of speech. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, we can, but it would be nice if you are a bit louder or closer to the microphone.
Um, my microphone is right next to my face. Okay, I can try speaking louder.
Okay.
Um, um, yeah, so basically the thing is, a lot of the comments the female journalists experience are very sexual and are in the form of body shaming, not just on their content but also like when they've experienced online harassment. It's usually related to their like sexuality. So the panel basically focuses on giving a better understanding of this issue and how different organizations, the news organization, are deal with it. They don't talk about it in the abstract, but they say like they're trying to discuss it in that panel. And it also talks about how like because of the digitalization, there are pros and cons of it, and basically pros are that as a platform it can be used to engage with um, like their audience and to network or fact check, but because of this harassment issue, they are facing basically limitations in voicing their opinions, and especially there is lack of representation for female journalists. So this is like the whole basically short summary of what the abstract talks about. Do you want to add anything to it, Zarish?
Yeah, I think I'll also start from the start. Ma'am, can I go right now?
Gigi, please.
Acha, so I do agree with what Kansa said about the summary of the article. Um, that journalists.
There are two authors, Sarah
Yes.
and Greta. So please mention their names during the discussion. जी.
ठीक है. अच्छा, sorry, I'm kind of. Give me 1 second. So, because journalism is a very open kind of, you have to deal with a lot of people. That means that more people get to, you are the target of more people. They can harass you both sexually and otherwise. There are so many types of harassment other than just sexual harassment, जिसमें impersonation भी आ जाती है, where the people, they try to impersonate the journalist herself. Basically, it's mostly towards female journalists. And then there is doxing, when the personal information जैसे कि phone number और addresses वगैरह होते हैं वो online post हो जाते हैं, so that more people get to target the journalists as well. Some even try to threat the female journalist, क्योंकि the type of content they are presenting is against what the perpetrator is, just what the perpetrator wants. And obviously there is also sexual harassment, so that's what the panel has discussed against responses of the newsroom to online harassment in Sweden, and to raise awareness and experiences of harassment of journalists. And the other speaker is presenting a global survey that offers insight to the magnitude and the nature of online abuse. How just the things that I've mentioned, there are so many different types of threats harassment that a journalist has to face. So a global survey of that. And basically the third speaker is focusing on the experiences of online harassment of Belgian journalists from an intersectional perspective. And then they basically want to discuss the strategies of which they can overcome it and avoid such things. And yeah, so anyway, what happens is because of the harassment that the journalists face, they are unable to, as mentioned in the article, talk freely, and they have to censor themselves about what they're saying, and उनकी free speech जो है वो भी affect हो जाती है, because obviously whatever they say becomes a target of harassment, especially for the female journalists. And I don't think it's mentioned here, but many of the male journalists also go through harassment. उनको काफी face करना पड़ता है, and that could be abuses, and it could be in any form as well. But in this article particularly, they have mentioned females, but they have failed to mention males. Yeah, basically that's about it. The panelists, in the last paragraph, it says the panelists will not only reflect on these issues, but also propose recommendations of how challenges for research, policy, and action can be overcome. And the members from the audience will also be able to study online harassment in journalism, to participate and get involved in the activities of network. And yeah, this was basically how they could prevent harassment against female journalists, and what actions to take against it.
All right.
Sorry, I was kind of very much lost in the middle.
No, that's perfectly fine. I think it was, you had closely looked at different paragraphs, so that is perfectly fine, because you are trying to recall or get or trying to find the point again. This is why it says that these panelists actually started Gendered Online Harassment Research Network. So journalists do have different kind of networks. So it's very interesting to see that they started Gendered Online Harassment Network, because she's talking about not only online harassment but also online sexual harassment. So the word or the physical presence is unnecessary for online sexual harassment. That's how they are taking it up. And it was good to mention that this is actually abstract submitted by a panel, and panel actually has 5 speakers. So I would assume that these 5 papers probably belong to this Gendered Online Harassment Research Network, right? So
Yes, yes.
5 people, if they belong to this network, they must be coming up with 5 different papers, right? So apparently this is not abstract of one paper. It is the abstract of 5 different papers. So it is the abstract for the panel. And then she's saying that this panel is actually presenting, presenting on online newsroom, online harassment in Sweden. And then they are talking about global survey. So from Sweden, they have expanded research to global survey. So I assume there would be a number of different countries in the survey, and which means that they are analyzing data in geographic context. So speaker 1 was focusing on Sweden, and speaker 2 is focusing on global survey of similar experiences. And speaker 3 says that, speaker 3 has Belgian journalists survey, online survey that you mentioned she had conducted intersectional kind of study. So it's very interesting that they first studied Sweden, then they studied global online harassment, and after that they looked for this intersectional perspective, and they picked up Belgian, right? So after this intersectional, they are looking at coping strategies, right? So she says that speaker 4 is emphasizing on coping strategies. So if you have to deal with sexual harassment, how would you cope with it, or how you would survive? And then she says that speaker 5 discusses disinformation strategies. So first it was coping strategies and then disinformation strategies. So it was nice to hear that you mentioned that it was a panel, and that you mentioned that together this panel is actually picking up on so many different perspectives to this harassment. And when she mentions coping strategies, she also mentions disinformation strategies and corporate actors, because people work in corporate world, right? So everybody who is working, so it becomes extremely interesting that how the employer or corporate actors are reacting to this kind of sexual harassment, online sexual harassment or harassment, and then how these things emerge from coping to disinformation. So I think disinformation actually relates to whatever everybody had said earlier. G. Did someone want to say something? And after mentioning all these things, she says that it reflects on quality of life and quality of human dignity, because if people keep on suffering from this kind of abuse, naturally the quality of life will be impacted. They will have bad life, or human dignity can, if that has an impact, so it would probably cause many other problems. Did you, Zarish, did you say that it's not covering male sexual harassment, it's covering female sexual harassment, but not male sexual harassment?
Yes, I think it's mainly more focused on female rather than male as well, because, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that it is so because this is a journal article, right? The researchers mostly write very focused articles, and focus is
Of course.
right.
I know, but
So
I
the,
mean, I was
the
just presenting my point of view that even male journalists face a lot of harassment as well, which they failed to mention. So
okay.
maybe they could have just put it like somewhere in there.
Uh, yeah, that's perfectly fine. I understand you mentioned your point of view, but I would not call it failure to mention. I won't call it failure because the article focuses on female sexual harassment or harassment of female journalists. So it is not failure. Somebody would write a different article on harassment of male journalists because I think one of the earlier articles was also
Of course, of
yes,
course.
when we were reading Sadaf Ahmed's article here about rape in Pakistani films. Sadaf Ahmed also said that she's focusing on rape in Pakistani films. She said that it doesn't mean that men are not raped, but most films actually focus on women's rape or attempt of women's rape, apart from Shoaib Mansoor's Bowl that focuses on rape of a transgender. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I know, I know. I was just saying that not because I don't accept that female journalists don't get harassed. I was just saying because this is a gendered online harassment in journalism discussion, and they have mentioned a challenge to the right voice of female journalists. But I was just presenting another point of view, and I don't think this article is wrong. I was just just mentioning it as my
okay,
own
okay.
add-on.
I accept your point of view. I think it was fine to mention that men also get harassed, but that is not a focus of this article. Uh, okay, very nice. I think it was very well reviewed. Okay,
I wanted to add a few more things because
please add. Please do.
so basically all the speakers are member of this organization like Gendered Online Harassment Research Network, right? And I was trying to look up if like Pakistan has their own organization or foundation or something like that to help with this because it is a huge issue, and I was reading upon it that apparently like 1 in 2 female journalists face this sort of like gender based harassment or violence in their work, and only 24% apparently uh, don't, or they say they don't. I mean, that's what I've read. And basically there is actually a foundation. I don't know if you know about this lawyer Nigat, um, but she created this foundation called Digital Rights Foundation, and so basically she made this foundation, and now it has like 90 members in it, and they train other female journalists on how about like digital security. And she said that the reason why she created this, and this is what I felt like maybe is slightly different in other countries compared to Pakistan, is that she says that it's not only about like facing online abuse, it's also about like the fear of it becoming an offline abuse, because like Sarish mentioned that people would, I guess, leak the addresses and doxing basically,
Yeah.
and so because of that there's a huge issue in Pakistan that it becomes like offline version of abuse.
Okay.
So
Can
I
can you share the name of the Pakistani organization in the group or in chat room?
yes ma'am.
A group would be fine too.
Okay ma'am.
So are you posting in group or in chat room?
In the group ma'am.
Okay. All right. So yes, I think Nighat Dad is very famous for her work, and uh, here she is, and Digital Rights Foundation. So I think it's very useful to react to the abstract from your position. So if they had mentioned Sweden and Belgium, you have added Pakistan, and it's very useful to see that somebody has actually, a woman herself has formed this organization, so I think it's very useful. And the article is actually talking about digital rights and online cultures and subcultures and online harassment, online sexual harassment. So I think in that sense it's very important because she's talking about factual information for engaging with the audience network and personal branding. So perhaps it implies that women are encouraged to brand themselves because many journalists focus on personal branding these days. So it's about personal branding, and then because of branding, experiences of different kind of misogynistic comments, verbal, physical threats, sexual online harassment. So it means that verbal they can use they can do it in real life or online, and physical threat is something that can actually happen online. So I think it's very important that the article is actually emphasizing on free speech for women journalists, free speech, and reduce the threat of uh, you know harassment. G.
Ma'am, I don't know if you remember this, like back, like I think 2 or 3 years ago, there was this very viral video of a, I guess it was part of a news TV show or something like that of Marvi Sarman and this Hafiz, like a small I don't remember his name, but he was from Jamaat-e Ulama Islam or something like that, and he, um, I wanted to share that clip, but it was, I guess, too vulgar to share. Basically, the very famous line he uses is like "मैं तुम्हारी शलवार उतार दूंगा" or something like basically like right in front of her while she was sitting there, and she was felt very threatened. She's an online, not an online, but she's a journalist and women rights activist. I don't know if you remember this. It was like 2 3 years back.
You can certainly mention it, like you mentioned Digital Rights Foundation. You could also share a link to that one. You mentioned an organization and a journalist. So I believe that these things are very common even in Pakistan. And I know a woman journalist who left Pakistan perhaps 2 3 years ago because she felt that she was experiencing abuse in person and otherwise, uh, and she was, she was subjected to many kind of misogynistic comments even in press club at Shimla Pahadi. So I would say that women do experience, and the incident that you mentioned would be reported incident because if you have read about it somewhere, I think it's important to mention things that are actually reported because many of these articles or abstracts are actually pointing to importance of reporting, importance of speech, or importance of voicing. That apparently seems to be the first step towards control of misogyny. Journalists do engage in self-censorship, which means that both male and female journalists engage in censorship, but it sounds like that perhaps self-censorship is more important for females because here someone other than normal uh, some other reaction is experienced. Normal reaction would be like agencies do not want journalists to say something, or people feel offended. But it sounds like women have to worry about agencies and people and certain other factors. So it seems that factors faced by female journalists would perhaps be more in number, perhaps, because until tested or until studied, we cannot say that there is a longer list of uh, variables, uh, when it comes to women journalists, online harassment or online sexual harassment. So I think that's very nice. Anything else that you want to add, or anybody else wants to add? All right. Thank you, Komal, and thank you. Sorry, Kanza and Zarish. Kanza and Zarish. I think the article is very well covered. Okay. So who is next?
Ma'am,
Myra.
I'm next. Komal.
Okay, Komal.
It was
Komal.
Kanza and then it was me. Ji. So the
Komal.
ID is 22631.
22631. Is it right after this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Should I start, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this abstract talks about, the title is When Sexualized Violence Becomes Part of Your Job Description and the Organizational Response to Online Abuse of Female Journalists. The session type is panel submission, and the author, जो है वो only one of the authors is mentioned, that's Greta.
Okay,
So before
Greta,
I begin,
Greta Gober.
yeah. So before I begin, I would like to explain, क्योंकि बड़ा confusion हो जाती है इसमें कि organizational response क्या होता है. So in my understanding, I feel that the people who are in the power, the people, the head of the media houses, and their response to the online abuse of female journalists is what it means. So the abstract starts by a research that states that women in media and journalism are subjected to more online abuse than the ones who are not in media. And the source that is given is Fogo Media Institute 2016. So this study is basically, the issue rather, is basically seen with different perspectives. Number one, जो कि ये author कह रही हैं, which is a problem in her eyes, in her understanding, कि इसको दो perspective से देखा गया है, which is, one is the freedom of expression, कि online abuse भी एक form हो सकता है freedom of expression का. दूसरा, the communication style का word use किया है इन्होंने, कि how your style matches. जब आप इसकी बात करते हो कि why is there online abuse on the female journalists, so you can look through this angle. The second point I would like to make is कि वो बोल रही हैं कि the media houses जो हैं, organizations जो हैं, वो they don't take the responsibility of protecting the employees from online abuse. इसको मैं लिंक करना चाहूँगी जो कि आगे जाकर हमें एक जो है फ्रेंच सोशियोलॉजिस्ट, एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट, फिलोसोफर हैं जिनका नाम है बॉर्डियो. तो इनकी बेसिकली एक थ्योरी है जिसको वो बोल रहे हैं इस एब्स्ट्रैक्ट में आगे जाके, the journalistic theory. And Bourdieu explains that the social world is structured around two opposition between two forms. कि जो structure है दुनिया का social world का, वो दो तरह की power में divide हुआ है. The one is economic and the second is cultural. Economic includes the money, the assets, and the cultural includes education, technical expertise, verbal abilities, artistic sensibilities. तो the point he makes is कि जो इंसान है और जो organizations हैं, individuals and organizations, वो unconsciously और consciously पता नहीं, इन दोनों में से वो compete करते हैं within the two forms. और इसी वजह से we can extract a point out of this कि why doesn't the organization respond to the online abuse of female journalists is because they are worried about the name they have, about their reputation. And the next point that she makes in the abstract is that most of the organizations they do not have female formal policies on training employees or in cyber protection. They do not have policies जिसके through वो बता कर सके कोई steps ले सके इसको solve करने के लिए. And the online abuse जो है normally सोचा जाता है कि किसी unknown से आएगा क्योंकि आप online काम करते हैं journalism में तो online abuse किसी stranger से आएगा या फिर किसी customer से आएगा. But the point that she makes is कि it's not only the people, the strangers, but the online abuse can come from the colleagues as well. जहाँ पे workplace जहाँ पे वो काम करती हैं और इसके लिए उन्होंने एक रेफरेंस भी दिया है जो कि गवर्नमेंट 2017 का जो है वो रेफरेंस है. And she says कि why does the organization have so much confusion in tackling this problem is कि वो अभी तक श्योर नहीं है कि इस मसले के लिए हम क्या कर सकते हैं. That is why this issue is so complicated. Next theory जो उन्होंने mention की है वो सारा अहमद को mention किया है and the name that she is referring to is feminist air. Basically वो कहना चाहती है कि इस issue को online abuse की जो मसला है we can address this issue by picking up Sara Ahmed's theory on feminist air. So I would explain कि Sara Ahmed क्या कहती हैं when she talks about feminist air. So she basically says कि जो sounds है ये जो जिसको हम sound कह रहे हैं वो sound basically जो complaints आती हैं औरतों की तरफ से वो आती हैं क्योंकि आप as a society सुनना नहीं चाहते हैं, आपकी will नहीं है कि आप इस issue को address करें. वो बड़े पर्सनल लेवल पे जाके इसकी बात करना चाह रही हैं सारा अहमद. तो वो कहती हैं the sound of no complaints about violence, refusal to laugh at sexist jokes, not to comply to unreasonable demands, to require a feminist air is to hear those sounds as speech. That when you hear a woman complaining about you, a man or anybody, even a woman, being misogynistic or cracking a joke that is sexist in nature, तो इस जब एक औरत इस बारे में कंप्लेन करती है तो उसको कंप्लेन की तरह ना लिया जाए क्योंकि वो अब कंप्लेन नहीं है, वो एक स्पीच बननी चाहिए ताकि उसका एक कलेक्टिव असर पड़े. इसका एक मैं पर्सनल इफ आई एम अलाउड तो मैं इसका पर्सनल एग्जांपल है मेरे पास कि if the men of my house if they make any sexist joke तो मैं बहुत ज़्यादा रिएक्ट कर देती हूँ. कॉन्शियसली होता है अनकॉन्शियसली लेकिन अब मुझसे नहीं बर्दाश्त होते हैं ये सेक्सिस्ट जोक. तो वो बोलते हैं कि यार नो इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू सिट विद यू एनीमोर, तुम्हारे साथ तो बैठा नहीं जा सकता. तो आई वाज जस्ट रिफ्लेक्टिंग ऑन देयर स्टेटमेंट कि जब वो ये बात करते हैं कि हम आपके इस एक्टिविज्म से थक गए हैं, जब आप इतनी छोटी छोटी बातों को जो कि क्योंकि जोक्स जो पहले टाइम्स में इन जोक्स के ऊपर बात की होती थी, ये कैजुअल सा जोक था और कोई माइंड नहीं करता था, औरतें खुद अपने बारे में मजाक बनाती हैं अभी भी. लेकिन थोड़ा सा जब इसके ऊपर हम रिएक्ट करते हैं तो वो बोलते हैं कि वी आर टायर्ड ऑफ यू. तो आई वाज जस्ट कंपेयरिंग कि आप 1-2 साल में या फिर चलो 20 साल कह लो, 20 years में ही हमारी बातों से, हमारे रिएक्शन से थक गए हैं। अगर आप इसको कंपेयर करें कि हम औरतें या फिर men as well, जिनको ये इस तरह के कमेंट्स मिल जाते हैं कि यू आर नॉट मैन इनफ, यू आर नॉट मैस्कुलिन इनफ, तो हम तो ये फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग देख रहे हैं. So we can say 100 years of enduring these jokes or versus 20 years of our activism जो है वो आपके लिए इशू बन चुका है. तो सारा अहमद का जो है बड़ा ही अमेजिंग सा इसके ऊपर एनालिसिस है कि आप फेमिनिस्ट एयर जो है उसको अप्लाई कीजिए, उसके थ्रू बात करें. और she has taken some interviews and through those interviews she has drawn a conclusion कि जब उन्होंने इंटरव्यू किया बच्चियों का, यूनिवर्सिटी के स्टूडेंट्स का या फिर अपनी कलीग्स का जो औरतें थी, she found out कि जब जैसे जितना मैंने उनसे बात करना चाहिए, जितना मैंने उनको फेमिनिस्ट एयर देना चाहा, उतना ही the more people talk to me. जितना आप सुनना चाहते हैं with empathy, with a sense of responsibility, कि आप उनके स्टोरी को, आप उनकी स्टेटमेंट को, आप उनके पेन को हर्ट ना कर दें या फिर उनको आप रिजेक्ट ना कर दें अनकॉन्शियसली भी, तो उसके लिए आप फेमिनिस्ट एयर अप्लाई करते हैं. जब आप एक तरीके से उनसे बात करते हैं that I am all ears to you, I'm listening to you, I understand, I can relate. So this is, I thought it was very commendable to mention in this abstract. इसके अलावा when we come नीचे आकर, तो she says कि ये पेपर जो है ये टैकल करेगा कि ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो है ये किस सूरत हाल में, किस सर्कमस्टांसेस में और किस को मदद देना चाहती हैं इस ऑनलाइन अब्यूज के मामले में. एक और एग्जांपल आई वुड लाइक टू कोट, मैं जर्नलिस्ट तो नहीं हूँ बट देयर आर टाइम्स जब मेरी वो आई राइट पोएम्स, तो जब मैं वो लिखती हूँ और वो कभी वीडियो चली जाती है, कोई ऑनलाइन आ जाती है, तो आई रिमेम्बर BBC उर्दू covered my औरत मार्च poem and there were like 1000 comments threatening to kill me कि इसका नाम पता चले, नाम हालांकि ऊपर ही लिखा हुआ था उर्दू में, तो हम इसको ये कर देंगे वो कर देंगे. There were rape threats, there were things about me, said about me, जो कि I think I couldn't share with anyone in my family. My friends knew. मुझे ज़्यादा इफेक्ट नहीं हुआ, I wouldn't lie, क्योंकि मुझे पता है कि जो मैं बात कर रही हूँ वो बड़ी नहीं है मैं हमारे सोसाइटी के लिए, नहीं, नॉट द वर्ल्ड बट आर पाकिस्तानी सोसाइटी. तो जब आप नई बात करते हैं जो कि इतना नया आइडिया लेके आता है कि माय बॉडी माय माइंड, मेरा जिसम मेरी मर्जी वाला, तो जब बात करते हैं तो बैकलैश तो आएगा. तो आई वाज प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर इट. शुमाइला माय टीचर, शी वाज आल्सो काउंसलिंग मी कि ये तो होना था, and she was constantly asking me, "Are you all right?" I said, "I'm all right," क्योंकि I knew what was going to happen after this. I was prepared. But if we think about it from the other perspective, कि अगर मेरी जगह कोई और बच्ची होती जो कि इतनी जिसको जो फेमिनिस्ट नहीं होती या फिर जो जिसको ये नहीं पता होता, एक पूरा कॉन्शियसनेस उसका डेवलप नहीं हुआ होता, तो और टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट हम सब एक जैसे नहीं सोचते, हम जब सबका एक जैसा मैकेनिज्म नहीं है चीज़ों को लेने का, नफरत को डील करने का या फिर हेट को डील करने का, हम सबका डिफरेंट तरीका होता है. तो शायद मेरी जगह कोई और बच्ची होती तो वो बेचारी डिप्रेस हो जाती, और उसका राइट भी बनता है जब 1000 बंदा आपके पीछे आ जाते और फॉर नो रीजन. माई पोम हैड नथिंग इन पर्टिकुलर जो कि मर्दों को या फिर किसी की कॉन्शियसनेस को, किसी रिलीजन को हिट कर रहा था. It was just my experience, what I thought of myself as a woman and what I think of the woman around me. तो मेरी पोम उसके ऊपर बेस थी, that's it. और उसके ऊपर ये था बैकलैश आया, तो I was just trying to relate कि मैं जर्नलिस्ट तो नहीं हूँ, लेकिन मेरा एक्सपोजर है 4-5 दफा कि कैसे जो ऑनलाइन अब्यूज है वो अफेक्ट कर सकता है. मुझे नहीं किया, वो अलग बात है, लेकिन अगर कोई और मेरी जगह होता तो वो हो सकता था. इससे बहुत ज़्यादा इफेक्ट. And I think I am basically done with it.
Okay, thank you, Komal. That was very nice. मुझे सिर्फ ये बताइए कि is this the link to your poem? It says Komal Bukhari Pakistani.
Yes, ये तो मेरा poem है, एक यहाँ पे publish हुआ था मैम. ये वीडियो YouTube पे नहीं मिलती, ये वीडियो उनके पेज पे मिलती है.
I was on the page, but I did not find.
Not the page online, the page on Facebook.
Okay, so you are saying it was on BBC's Facebook page.
Yeah, BBC Urdu.
Facebook page. If you can, if you have the link.
Yes, I can share it with you.
Okay, if you have the link, we can try finding it.
Sure.
Okay. All right. We'll. If you have the link, I can try opening it now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just trying to search for it. Ma'am,
okay. Are you sharing in the group or in chat room?
Ma'am, I will share in the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
I can.
Yeah, if you like, you can talk about a couple of verses from your poem that will actually explain why people reacted.
Sure, ma'am, I will. अगर मुझे वो poem मिल जाए, बड़ी पुरानी है.
All right.
The poem was basically called Book Chicken, the iconoclast, और the idea was कि आप जो बुतों के, जो मर्दों के बुत बन गए हैं हमारे माशरे के अंदर, we should break them. That's it. थोड़ी सी इतनी सी बात मैंने की थी. मैं अभी सर्च कर रही हूँ.
All right. If it's okay if we can't find it right now, but I would like to suggest that you create your CV and include the link in your CV, so next time you won't have to find it. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Sure. मिल गई है वैसे अगर the poem.
You found it?
Yeah.
Okay.
मैं पढ़ूं? क्योंकि वो टाइम अगर कम है तो मैं नहीं पढ़ूंगी, वो दूसरे लोग भी बोल.
हाँ, उसमें से you can certainly mention something. If you can share the link, I will open it here, so I can understand you are saying.
Ma'am, I found the poem on my MacBook, जो कि मेरे नोट्स के अंदर है. वीडियो मुझे मिल गई है, लेकिन उसका शेयर जो है वो WhatsApp पे नहीं आ रहा, वो Facebook पर ही आ रहा है.
अच्छा, ठीक है, तो आप
कॉपी कर दिए. मैं
आप कॉपी पेस्ट कर दें. I just wanted to look at it.
Send.
So, is this the one? Is this the one? Komal, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. This is the video. Yellow filter.
Okay, so this is the video.
ये
Okay, so it's not something printed, it's actually something recorded.
Yeah. ना रोक सकेगी जहाँ की कोई कुवत मुझे, हर शहर में बरपा ये बगावत होगी। झुक जाएगी दुनिया मेरे हौसलों के आगे, कुछ इस तरह मेरे जुनून की रविश होगी। पत्थर के खुदा तू भी सुन ले, अपने तारीख के मुअर्रिख से भी कह दे, जुल्मत की कहानी अब खत्म होगी, हर औरत अब बुत शिकर होगी।
All right, so I think that wasn't very long, but that's nice to know. G, okay, any comments, everyone? Any comments on feminist year? Sara Ahmed, I think, I'm not sure. I think she's a Pakistani woman living in Australia.
Ma'am, yes, she is a British Australian scholar.
British Australian.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I can understand that there are cases of migration from one country to another. So I can understand that, that refers to many other kinds of misogyny or, even also some sort of impact of controlling image or some kind of problems. But it also sounds like that it's very interesting to see that she's mentioning feminist ear as a theory and as a methodology for research. So I think it's very interesting to see that she is talking about media organizations as well, because I think one of the abstracts earlier also said media as organizations reacted to these things in a particular way. So it's interesting to know that that some of these do mention that media or do mention official commitment to stop this form of violence. So unless, I think so, voicing becomes very important in terms of misogyny, and if voicing is absent, so commitment will also be absent, because one thing follows another. Even in the Portugal case, the author was talking about uh, changes in law because of voicing, and here we can see that if somebody had mentioned that organizations were reacting negatively to misogyny or Me Too movement, here it does say, here it mentions an official commitment to control misogyny or sexualized abuse online of their female employees. So it sounds very interesting. Okay, Komal, thank you. Very nice. I think you provided some very interesting information, and it was extremely nice to see that you can relate it to culture and you can also relate it to personal experience. So that becomes your own witnessing, and you yourself appear as source of information. So citation would be basically you yourself. Okay, very nice. G, all right. Anybody wants to add something or ask a question? All right, Myra. Myra Amir, do you want to go next?
Miss, like she's written in the chat that she'll be back after 10 minutes. So
okay, I think you can start then.
Okay, ma'am. Can you all hear me?
Which abstract is it? We can all hear you
Yes.
very well.
Ma'am, my ID is 23748. It's the last one.
It's the last one.
Misogyny Without Borders.
Okay,
Yay.
so the authors are Meredith Pruden.
Yes. So the title of my abstract is Misogyny Without Borders, A Clash of Cultures, Mediated Misogyny in the Era of Global Conservative Populism. And the authors are Meredith Pruden. So this abstract focuses on this very famous incident, and it was being reported ardently in all forms of media back in 2018, where Brett Kavanaugh, a contender for the US Supreme Court judge, he was accused of harassment by a very famous scholar, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. So after this, the while the this ongoing reporting was going on, what happened was that the president of United States himself entered this very topic this incident, and made some unfavorable tweets, which were clearly siding with the alleged person, where he accused Dr. Christine Ford of putting false accusations on a man. And furthermore, that we also saw the same narrative then prevailing, and we also saw media reporting it in different ways. Now, the purpose of the article is to understand how what exactly is mediated misogyny, how it functions within a global conservative populism, or within a structure of those ideals, and how all of this comes back at a colonial or engages with colonial discourse, or engages with the sort of ideals. So firstly, in order to start, we must understand what the author means by mediated misogyny. Mediated misogyny is basically a term that relates to mostly cyber harassment. However, it focuses on intersections of gender, technology, and media, which means that mediated misogyny focuses on how misogyny tends to prevail through these three things, and how they are interconnected within these three things, and hence would also be prevalent in hence the culture around the way gender, technology, and media function in modern times also is related to how the misogyny then is structured and invoked. So basically, what mediated misogyny would further engage with is how social media and other forms of media have their own structures of misogyny, which are different from what we see in normal day-to-day life. For example, there were the one article posted on Google Classroom was by Bell Hooks, and it focused on gangster rap and how media brings out a very misogynistic figure of both men and women, and which artists who uncritically make those songs tend to further propagate the stereotypical image of black men and women. This narrative, as you see, is more relevant to media and will not be seen in reality or within our day-to-day functions. So yes, so some statistics regarding this. So what mediated misogyny would then, obviously, since it's relevant to media, we would take online harassment into account, and online harassment has some very interesting statistics. So in terms of online harassment, men tend to suffer more of it, which is a surprising statistic. However, they tend to suffer more of name calling and physical threats. However, women are more likely to go through gender-based and sexual harassment in online spaces. And around 21% of women who are aged from 18 to 29 tend to experience sexual harassment of some sorts online. And this is twice more than that which men experience in terms of gender-based or sexual harassment. Revenge porn is another example of mediated misogyny, as it is also something used to subjugate women. So basically, online harassment now, as we can see, other there are other ideas regarding it, that it is not simply based on gender, it is also based on and intersects with other forms of abuse of people in general, and goes as far as ideologies related to racism, homophobia, classism, and ableism. So when we talk of class and color within online harassment, we also see that online harassment is um, it is a form or way where people of cultural or ethnic minorities are further subjugated. So let's say Black, Muslim, or within the US, Black, Muslim, Caucasian women or men would, let's say, be more subjugated to harassment of sorts. Now, basically, okay, so this abstract focuses on how or brings out a very deep-seated notion within our culture that prevails on cyberspaces, where we see how inequality and discrimination is prevalent within the technology sector, which is considered to be very innovative and very modern. However, we see that ideals dating back to centuries prevail here. So in regards to this very abstract and what this abstract tries to say, now we move on to conservative populism and how it is linked to mediated misogyny. So basically, Maria B. Manon, in her book called Misogyny and Media in the Age of Trump, relates to this very incident and generally the tweets of President Trump. And we do not, when we look at conservative populism, I would like you to envision beyond the US. I would like you to envision the state of Pakistan, where we have a conservative populist government in some senses. And I would like you to also think of the president of Philippines. Now, both our head of state, Mr. Imran Khan, along with the Philippines president, both have been embroiled in some forms of misogynistic statements. The president of Philippines, for example, has stated his interest in fine-looking women and has made multiple remarks, derogatory remarks about women. Our own prime minister was accused of harassment prior to his election, and there were many examples of him engaging in unfavorable things as well, or making statements about women. For example, his very famous statement about the Me Too movement, and him saying that the feminists of today are from a different class, or they are reflective of the class divide within the country. So we see that conservative populism is not limited to one nation. And in order to understand conservative populism, Maria B. Manon says that it is one thing which tends to further accommodate misogyny within our entertainment culture, within our media, and within our digital space as well. So basically, the values behind misogyny are that it is a way or form of pursuing control, surveillance, and discipline of the feminine entity. Now, the conservative populism holds the same ideology, except for the fact that it disciplines the common citizen, which is it aims to either assign them it aims to reform them in some ways to be good and right. And good and right is based on morals of are not based on critical models of any values. However, they are based on values that have been held for the longest of time. So conservative populism ke hisab se, then it is very highly linked to establishnism, which means that it aims to deconstruct science academies. It supposedly is against the elite and the media. Hence, we see a lot of Mr. Trump's tweets against free media. It is ingrained in ideas of nationalism, isolationism, and authoritarianism. So these elements are focused. Then if you look at the time when these ideologies came about, family structures and gender roles at that time were very different from what we see in modern days. They were limited to the nuclear family, where the male would be given the roles outside of the house and the female would be given roles related to domesticity, and where the woman or the female would embody the values and notions of the cult of true womanhood, which are the four disciples that we discussed in our previous class. So, as we can see, since conservative populism also focuses on a sort of family life and gender roles that date back to a more patriarchal or a more misogynistic time, you in modern times, it cannot by essence accept the reversal of gender roles or reformed gender roles, or not, or gender roles that do not consist of binaries, which is that the gender roles which are more fluid. That is something which conservative populism cannot accept, because uh, कंजर्वेटिव पॉपुलिज्म का ये समझना हमारे लिए ज़रूरी है कि उसका अपना सर्वाइवल मिसोजिनी के तौर पे बेस्ड है, विच इज़ कि जितनी मिसोजिनी प्रिवेल होगी, जितनी वो आइडियाज़, वो आइडियल्स, वो पुराने तौर के प्रिवेल होंगे, उतना ही कंजर्वेटिव पॉपुलिज्म भी नुमाया रहेगा हमारी सोसाइटी में. So basically it focuses on retaining a status quo, and hence feminism is a direct enemy of conservative populism, because feminism aims to detract status quo itself. It aims to deconstruct status quo, and feminism of modern day, intersectional feminism, aims to enlighten and to further bring up marginalized communities. So now I hope that these two things, mediated misogyny, conservative populism, and the links they have, or what they have against feminism, is a bit more clearer. So now I will take you all, I will try to connect this with how it is directly linked to a colonial presence. As you can see in the abstract, the person, the abstract does state, I hope, misogyny is an ever-present echo of this colonizing discourse. So the writer over here in the abstract states how to explore the topic of mediated misogyny and global conservative populism, this presentation takes a feminist critical cultural approach. So as we can see that the author of this abstract tries to connect it with colonialism, and the way that Maria B. Menon connects it is that these ideals, whatever I've explained, which are inherent of conservative populism, are aimed at subjugating women or marginalized groups in the same manner that colonial powers did of that time within colonized countries. And so we can see that while it is not directly colonized, while those countries having that narrative are not directly colonizing the other countries, however, the values, the imperialist values within these are inherently the same. Hence, the gist of this abstract is that आपको यही आइडियोलॉजी एक तौर पे मिलती है मीडिएटेड मिसोजिनी के थ्रू, जो एक कॉलोनियल स्ट्रक्चर के तौर पे where the autonomy of women, the autonomy of marginalized communities, ethnic minorities, religious minorities, and to have a more liberated structure which is not consistent with the status quo is not recognized. So this was it.
All right. Excellent. A bit long, but excellent. Okay. Anyone, any comments on what Nimra just discussed? Nimra, it was very nice to see that you mentioned a few different presidents from US to other countries, including Pakistan. I was wondering if what you mentioned, Imran Khan said about feminists of today belong to a different class. I wonder if that is here because this is a clip that says, I completely disagree with the Western concept of feminism. Did you have a link for what you mentioned? I think this clip would be available online. And I think Komal did mention something earlier in regards to, what happened from this TV play, मेरे पास तुम हो, to this woman who said, मेरा जिस्म मेरी मर्जी. So I think there are a few different things which are very important in regards to the last two presentations that we just discussed. I wonder if that comment would be here. It would be nice if you can find the link to this comment. And I also feel you probably have a lot of data which is which comments on this particular abstract, because you were discussing more concepts that are there, and apparently you had conducted more research to explain different concepts which are mentioned here,
Ma'am, I didn't, sorry, I'm cutting you off. I didn't exactly find proper articles. I could only access like a few bits and pieces of books and a few articles. So I
Yes.
can share them online. As for the clip, I don't have it. However, I can find it. I think the one that you, yes, this one is probably the one that I was also referring to.
It's not very long. It's 2 minutes long. I would play it just to see if that comment is here.
मैं बिल्कुल डिसएग्री करता हूँ ये वेस्टर्न कॉन्सेप्ट से. जो फेमिनिज्म की मूवमेंट चली, उसने माँ के रोल को डिग्रेड कर दिया.
Maybe those comments were taken out of the context. Maybe he did not mean to say those.
I want to assume that he was trying to play to the right, which is something that a lot of politicians in Pakistan have to do.
I would say that his views could have been more well-rounded and better articulated. He needs to probably look more deeply into women empowerment and address the subject accordingly.
I really would love to see a 50% women representation in the cabinet.
Work on electoral reform. He should be focusing on human development projects. And he should also be focusing on macroeconomic stability. So want him to focus on the...
Ma'am, may I add a point over here?
Right. So apparently that is not here because it only refers to comments by different women or feminists.
Ma'am, so I'd like to point out to the two parallels within this very interview that are created. As I mentioned, conservative populism ka focus ही है to retain the roles that women have retained since previous times, and that's exactly what our Prime Minister mentions कि एक माँ का role खराब कर दिया, because the mother is now outside of the house. She's functioning as the mother is not simply restricted to the house anymore. She's a working mother now. She has an identity of her own as a woman. So you see कि वो एक dichotomy आ रही है, and what the women have mentioned कि आप कैबिनेट में सीट्स के ऊपर फोकस कर सकते हैं, औरतों को ज़्यादा प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं, आप लीगली तौर पे उन्हें ज़्यादा, तो that's those very important aspects are not being focused upon. But that's exactly what this interview is a very good example of how conservative populism functions. It only wants you to restrict the role of male and female to what it has been, rather than progressing forward to really focus on important things.
Okay, so you meant these interviews in this video?
These came around the time of Aurat March this year. So
Okay, all right, sounds very nice. Okay, the only thing that I wanted to add at this point is that you have a lot of data on this topic, especially whatever we were discussing right here. So if you can find some clips from any of Pakistani plays from Hum TV or ARY, or if not from a Pakistani play, maybe from any film that you would think of. So I was only suggesting that if you are interested, you can develop your midterm paper on this topic. I'm suggesting this because I thought you perhaps conducted a lot of research for this presentation, and you already have a lot of data. The only thing that you would need further would be the clips from TV play. From one play would be better, or you can have it from a couple of different plays. That would also be fine, as long as your spine of paper is around one topic. So I thought that perhaps you have a lot of data and you can use that data, and you can also make a list of clips, or just make a list of scenes from a particular TV serial or a film, and you can use all that information to write a paper. It would be very important that you are mentioning scenes and dialogues to emphasize on all the points that you have mentioned here. So if you do not find a play, you can perhaps look for media clips of Imran Khan and any other president that you have mentioned in your presentation. So as long as you are discussing what those clips are showing and what Imran Khan or Trump is saying in his interview, it would be useful if you are interested in doing a midterm paper on this topic. It would be interesting to see that paper on this topic. It's not essential, but you can think about it.
Yes, ma'am. So I did find one show. It was actually coming up again and again in regards to the articles. It's called the Handmaiden's Tale. So the show was criticized for not understanding what modern American misogyny is. So I could try to include that. I didn't get time to fully read up and include it in this presentation. So
okay, fine. As I said before, that presentation was very nice but a bit long, and I think I would like to hear comments from anybody. I think it was interesting to see. It was nice to see that many points were covered, but in future, if you are whenever you present at a conference or at an international conference, they would restrict you to time. For example, they would say 7 to 12 minutes is normally the time they give to a speaker. So it's important to think about those things as well. Okay.
Yes, I'll be mindful of that next time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am.
It was very nice. All right. We can, I think, have maximum one more presentation unless everyone is tired. If you are tired, then I can certainly give a break.
We have like 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes left. So I wanted to ask, should I present right now in the next session? Because mine's a little long.
Okay. One thing that everyone should try doing is like stick to duration of presentation Um, okay. If you think you can finish in 5 to 7 minutes, then we can have the presentation. And if you think it will take longer, I would like to know if it would take longer because the presentation is long, or you think that question answers will make it long.
No, I think for me, delivering it will take a little bit of time.
We can have the presentations in the next class.
I would personally suggest one with mine because there's also some pictures and I wanted it to be slightly interactive. Then I can go first in the next session.
Okay, so I believe you are suggesting that we should end today's session.
Yeah, because it's a little tiring.
Okay, all right. Okay, guys, I think in that case, we will have the remaining presentations at the start of next class. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.